her dedication to patients kept her going, and during lunch she'd show people fake prayer cards she'd had printed with her son's picture. I wanted to scream. Kaylee finally went into remission 8 months after diagnosis. I sobbed with relief in the hospital bathroom before pulling myself together to finish my shift. All I wanted was to take her somewhere special to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just a week at the beach to feel normal again. Maybe build sandcastles and eat ice cream for breakfast. I submitted my first real time off request in 3 years, but Meredith denied it immediately. She pulled me aside and explained she was using that exact week for her son's recovery trip to Europe. The company was paying for it as part of her support package. She patted my shoulder and said she was sure I understood since I'd been through the same thing. Then she asked if I could cover her shifts while she was gone. That night, Kaylee asked me why other families got to celebrate when their kids got better, but we couldn't. She'd seen her roommate at the hospital get a Disney trip after remission. I couldn't give her an answer that wouldn't break both our hearts. I spent the next few days in a weird haze. I didn't know what to do until I saw Meredith's son posting spring break pics from Cancun during his supposed chemo. I screenshotted everything in 10 minutes. His beer pong tournaments, party pics, all dated during his fictional cancer battle. Found 3 ex-employees on LinkedIn who'd left after similar situations with Meredith. Saved every email where she'd harassed me during Kaylee's treatments. I was done being a doormat. I marched straight to HR the next morning with my folder of evidence. The receptionist barely looked up when I asked to file a formal complaint. She handed me a stack of forms and pointed to the waiting area. I filled out every page while my hands shook with anger. The screenshots, the emails, the LinkedIn messages from former employees, everything went into that complaint. The HR director called me in after an hour. She flipped through my documentation with a frown that deepened with each page. When she got to the spring break photos, she set the folder down and folded her hands. She explained that social media posts weren't conclusive evidence and reminded me that Meredith had been with the company for 15 years. She suggested I might be misunderstanding the situation due to my own stress. I left that office feeling like I'd been punched. On my way back to the floor, I passed Meredith's office where she was showing a group of nurses her cancer journey scrapbook. They were all wiping tears as she pointed to staged hospital photos she must have taken during a routine checkup. One nurse was even taking notes for her own patient advocacy presentation. That afternoon, Meredith cornered me in the medication room. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it. Her voice stayed sweet, but her eyes were cold as she mentioned hearing about my HR visit. She reminded me that she controlled the schedule, the assignments, and the performance reviews. Then she assigned me 3 back-to-back 12-hour shifts over Kaylee's birthday weekend. I worked those shifts. What choice did I have? Kaylee spent her 13th birthday at her grandmother's house while I changed bedpans and administered medications. She'd been planning a small party with her friends, her first social event since remission. Instead, she blew out candles on a store-bought cake with just her grandma there. When I finally got home, I found her asleep on the couch, still wearing the birthday dress she'd picked out weeks ago. The next week, Meredith escalated. She moved me to the night shift without warning, claiming it was due to staffing needs. This meant I'd miss Kaylee's follow-up appointments unless I stayed awake for 24 hours straight. She also started documenting every minor issue, like when I was 2 minutes late returning from break because I was on the phone with Kaylee's oncologist. I started noticing other things too. Meredith would hover near me during shift changes, listening to my patient reports, and later presenting my observations as her own insights. She began showing up during my rounds, questioning my decisions in front of patients and their families. Once, she loudly asked